And we are live. Welcome everybody to the seminar series Digital Twins for Cities, hosted by Chalmers University and the Digital Twin Cities Center. My name is Ben Ketzler. I'm the scientific coordinator of the Digital Twin Cities Center, and I'm going to be today's moderator. We are super excited to finally kick off this seminar series. We got some great feedback already from you. We have loads of registrations, which really shows that the topic is of interest to a lot of people. And we're going to have the next few weeks dedicated to all things digital twin. We're going to kick things off today with initiatives from around the world. And then we move on next week to business and revenue models. The week after is then on organizational and legal challenges. Then we take a little Easter break, move on to security risks and challenges, opportunities for civic engagement, and opportunities for circularity. Yes, before we start, I quickly want to do some housekeeping. We're going to record this, so right after the stream finishes, it's going to be available on YouTube. And you are strongly encouraged to ask questions in the chat. We'll do our best to facilitate that, pull in some questions into the live stream, and have our speakers comment on that. So feel free to fire away in the YouTube chat. Yes, before we go to today's panelist, I would actually like to invite Anders Log onto our stage. Anders is a professor for computational mathematics and our director at the Digital Twin Cities Center. Hello, Anders. How are you doing?
Hello. How you doing?
Good. Thank you. Great that you're with us. You know, we decided that this series will not be about the Digital Twin Cities Center, but very briefly, could you just tell us what is the Digital Twin Cities Center?
Well, it's a national competence center hosted by Chalmers University in Sweden and funded by the Swedish innovation agency Vinnova. And our vision in the center is to establish the digital twin city concept as a foundation for digital planning, design, construction of sustainable cities throughout Sweden. And we are a national and collaborative arena, so we are interested in providing a platform for sharing knowledge, and that is the motivation for this seminar series we're starting today.
Thanks a lot, Anders, for that quick introduction. Maybe some of the people might be a little bit more interested actually into the research activities that we do at DTCC. Again, we cannot go into detail here, but maybe can you give us a quick glance of what's going on at DTCC on the research level?
A couple of things. We're building a platform to support the research activities of the centers, a digital twin platform. And one thing we've done is to create a pipeline, an automated workflow from raw data to creating 3D city models. We're also working within urban planning and design to integrate macro scale simulations of flows with micro scale simulations of moving agents in cities to forecast how people move around in public spaces. We're also exploring within digital construction how we can use tools such as VR and AR to facilitate more efficient collaboration in the construction phase of cities.
Sounds very interesting. Thank you for that. Last question before we move on to our panelists, and that's going to be a little bit more difficult, actually. You know, like digital twins have become this buzzword for a lot of things, and we have a lot of different terms going on. We have a lot of different definitions. Could you maybe make an effort and try to clarify a little bit of that for us?
Sure. So digital twin, it's indeed a buzzword, but I think it's a good one because I think it captures what it's all about. Maybe it's important to understand where we come from. I mean, it's in the field of 3D GIS, then a 3D city model is the term most commonly used. But I want to emphasize that a digital twin is something more than a 3D model. If you talk about the 3D model, well, that can be something very static, but the digital twin adds the aspects of having real-time sensor data, having perhaps real-time simulation as part of the digital twin. So the live feed from sensor data, the use cases, and the simulation aspects are very important when you create a digital twin. So I think it's a buzzword. You can criticize that, but I think it's actually a very good buzzword that directly sort of encapsulates what it's all about.
Thanks a lot. I mean, it's very difficult to come up with the ultimate definition. We're still struggling in academia with that. But I think that's a very good summary of some of the things that are going on in academia.
Yep.
Great. If there are any questions for Anders, I hope you can ask them in the chat. And Anders, I hope you can stick around for a little bit, answer some of the questions in the chat. And then if there's more interest in what the center does, please go to dtcc.chalmers.se. You'll find more information there. Once again, thank you, Anders. Great to have you with us.
Look forward to this.
Good. Yes, so now we're moving on to today's session on initiatives from around the world. We thought it's a great way to kick off the series. And we have three large initiatives represented here by Alexandra Bolton, Adam Beck, and Dan Isaacs. And these three great speakers will give us a brief input on about 10 minutes about their initiatives. And we're going to kick things off with Alexandra Bolton, who I invite to the stage now. Alexandra, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Thank you very much. Can you, hopefully you can see my screen.
Absolutely. Great to have you with us. We're all super excited to hear about the CDBB, the Center for Digital Britain. To many of us, this is, of course, this means something already. Very inspiring things you do there. And of course, besides all the other activities, what we're most interested in now is the National Digital Twin program that you're probably going to talk a bit more about now. The stage is yours.
Thank you, and thank you so much for inviting me to come and talk. It's wonderful. I'm really chuffed. So yes, you're right. I would like to speak about the National Digital Twin Programme. The Centre for Digital Built Britain is broader and is housed at the University of Cambridge. But speaking about the National Digital Twin Programme, or how do we use our data infrastructure to create the future that we want? And as I like to say, how can we be better ancestors? So a colleague of mine quite recently drew this diagram and said, over the past 50,000 years, about 100 billion people have lived. And there are about 7.7 billion people on the planet at the moment currently living. But if you project population growth over the next 50,000 years, there will be 6.75 trillion people. And we need to make our infrastructure work, not just for the 7.7 who are living now, but so that our infrastructure and our planet works for that 6.75 trillion that's coming after us. So I've just jumped 2 slides, so sorry. So what do I mean when I talk about a digital built Britain? I'm talking about thinking about data right at the very beginning, before we even pick up our mouse or our pen. What data do we need? How do we need it? What format? Who needs to see it? How can we share it, but securely and resiliently? We talk about building. When we've designed our thing, when we've thought about how the house or the motorway or the transport system or the energy system's built, how do we build it? What does that mean? How do we make sure that we can share data so that we can increase productivity, so that we can increase speed, so we can have better outcomes from that building? And, generally around the world, we're reasonably good at doing that bit. But the next piece, how do we use the data that we've got in designing and building to operate that asset really well, to make sure that we can have planned maintenance, to make sure that the people who use those buildings, those facilities, those spaces, get more out of it? How do we make sure that we learn from how we operate those buildings so that when we design a new one, build a new one, we do it better? And then the next step, how do we integrate our individual assets into our built and natural environment and make sure that it all works as a whole? In 2017, the UK government published Data for the Public Good. Our National Infrastructure Commission published Data for the Public Good, and it made 3 recommendations: to create a national digital twin, which they define as an ecosystem of connected digital twins, and it's about enabling these better outcomes from better decision making. And they're going to do that through creating an information management framework, which enables the secure and resilient data sharing and effective information management. And they asked us to put together a digital framework task group, a group of experts from all different stakeholders to come to provide the coordination and alignment. So that allows us to enable the National Digital Twin, to deliver it, and then to make sure that industry and society is aligned. We see lots of benefits from a national digital twin, and I'm not going to read through the slide for you, but societal benefits, better stakeholder engagement, better outcomes for people, better schools, better roads, benefits to the economy, better national productivity, higher performing assets, benefits to business. We know this is going to create new markets, new services, new business models, and benefits for the environment. We've got to make sure that we leave a world that our children and grandchildren can inhabit. So this built environment, we don't just see as assets sitting alone. We're taking a systems of systems view. We've obviously got our economic infrastructure, our social infrastructure, and our natural infrastructure, but we need to look at it as not a series of unconnected, disconnected construction projects with short-term outputs, but as systems of systems over a longer period of time. And to do that, we think you need to look at what is the cyber asset. Let's use the data we get from that system and we know and we hold about that system to manage it better. And then let's use that data to run models, to run simulations, and then make interventions back into that physical environment. So we view infrastructure as a cyber physical system. And these are the system processes that we think exist. Now, if you look at the little circle at the top, that's the design build piece, and you've got your decommissioning piece. But the huge big piece is the operations, the maintenance, the use. We need to make sure that we're not just talking about our new assets, we're talking about our assets that currently exist. How do we make sure that we put these into the systems of systems processes that we have? Now, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this diagram or a very similar diagram around information value chain. So we talk about creating the data at the bottom, and you need to manage that data. We need to make sure that it's of the right quality, that it's correct, that it's in the right format. Then you can use that to make sense of what you're seeing. How can you learn from your data? And you get insights from that, which you can pull the learning back into how do you collect better data, but you could also use it to take decisions. And this is where I absolutely think the value of connected digital twins and the National Digital Twin Programme will come. Making decisions, getting the right data at the right time to the right people, and the data's right, but using it to make informed decisions. And those decisions, again, can help you collect better data for next time. But it's making those decisions for the benefit of people that is the ultimate aim. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we describe digital twins, and absolutely there is a big discussion about what is a digital twin. For us, it's about having a physical asset. Here we've just got a train. It creates data. Putting that data into that digital twin, the model, allows you to have insights into how that model's working and how that asset is working, and make decisions which you feed back into that, in this case, this train carriage. But let's think about connected digital twins. In a rail system, you've not just got your train carriages, you've got your signalling, you've got your tracks. They're all little mini digital twins. So let's connect them together. Let's share the data between them and then run the whole train system, the rail system, as a system of systems, connected assets. And you can see that rail is only part of the transport system. We also have our air transport system and our road transport system. Let's connect those and make decisions based on the data that we have from all those assets. And you're starting to get an ecosystem of connected digital twins here as you're connecting these up. Then let's move on from transport. Let's think about energy. Let's think about water. When we have this connected system of connected ecosystem of digital twins, we can make better decisions on a much bigger level than we can just looking at the data from one digital twin. So how are we going to do this? We believe that there's something that we're calling the digital commons, or potentially the information management framework. We believe you need a foundation data model, high-level definition of the structure and meaning of data, so that we can enable this consistent sharing of data across digital twins and the ecosystems that they support. And it's really important to note that consistent sharing of data needs to be resilient and secure. We believe you need a reference data library, a particular set of classes and properties that we'll want to use to describe our digital twins. Make sure everything's got the same name. So if you're calling a spade, that's what you're calling it. And then integration architecture, the protocols that will enable the managed sharing of this data. We believe that you need to take a values-based approach. And the National Digital Twin Programme has published the Gemini Principles, which is our take on this values-based approach. Every digital twin, every connected digital twin has to have a purpose. Why are you doing it? For us, it's for the public good, and it's for creating value and insights. It's got to be trustworthy. And there is a little tension here, because you must make sure it's secure, but you must make sure it's open, and you must make sure the quality is right. So we need to make sure that we make the correct decisions about the balance between openness, security, and quality. And of course, it's got to work, it's got to function. We believe that's a federated model. We know that it needs to be curated, and we must also leave room for expansion, room for evolution. This market, this technology is changing rapidly, and we need to make sure that we have something that can change with it. We also believe you need to take a market-based approach. The digital commons, the information management framework I've spoken about, is a little bit like the rules of the game. We believe that's something that everybody holds in common, everybody agrees on. And then there is a digital twin market, which is absolutely commercial. There are huge business opportunities there. So we like to talk about it as collaborate on the rules and compete on the game. Our current delivery model is made up by the Digital Twin Hub, which is a web-enabled community of people making real progress on digital twins. This is supported by the information management framework, this digital commons that I was talking about, to allow the sharing of that digital twin data. And we know this isn't just a technical problem. We know we need to change people's behaviours, people's understanding. We know we need to support that sectoral change. So there's a socio-technical change programme attached to that, and they work together to create the National Digital Twin. I've spoken just very briefly about the Digital Twin Hub. If you would like to get involved, please do. Please visit the Digital Twin Hub website. Just click register interest now, and we'll be in touch with further information. It would be great to have you on board joining the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. Very inspiring, very interesting. Obviously, the center and what you do is a great inspiration for all of us. I would have a ton of questions now, but maybe just one. So obviously you did a lot of things right, because everybody talks about the National Twin infrastructure and program. But maybe for us who haven't started that journey yet, is there any sort of lessons learned, anything where you think, yeah, we could have done that a little differently? Anything that comes to mind?
I think the thing that I would say is really important with one of these programs is it's not about command and control. It's about coordination and alignment. The whole digital twin space is so much bigger than one institution, one group, one person can hold. So it's about that constant collaboration, making sure that you're working with people and you're listening as well as talking. So listening to what others have done. There's great work going on all over the world, and we need to work together on this. That would be my tip.
Very good. Thanks a lot. Alexandra, we're going to get back to you in the discussion, but right now I would like to actually move to Australia, to Adam Beck, who is the Executive Director of the Smart Cities Council, Australia and New Zealand. Hello, Adam. Can you hear me?
I can, Bernd. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. I'm good. Good to have you. Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited to learn a little more about Australia and New Zealand from a European perspective. You're obviously a little further away. We might not know so much about Australia and New Zealand, but I know you do a lot of great things there. So I would like you to give us a bit of an input, and the stage is yours.
Thanks, Bernd. I'd like to acknowledge firstly my peers and colleagues that are part of this session as well, Alexandra and Dan, the work that the CDBB is doing, and also the Digital Twin Consortium. All their efforts are inspiring the work that we're doing here in Australia and New Zealand, and you'll certainly see as we go through my slide deck sort of alignment or line of sight to particularly a lot of the work that the CDBB is doing. So I wanted to echo Alexandra's last point there around the great work happening globally, ensuring that we learn from each other and we improve and we continue to share. I'm going to really share the digital twin journey in Australia and New Zealand. It's not the complete journey. The Smart Cities Council is playing but one part and one role. There's many other great efforts going on in other organisations, but from our perspective, I wanted to share what we've been doing in helping build a thriving digital twin marketplace. The first thing I would do and what I would say is that we look at the digital twin through a data lens, and Alexandra, of course, backed that up. Our initiative, the Centre for Data Leadership, is where our digital twin work sits, and it sits under the sort of theme of data activation. We have identified 3 approaches and platforms of data activation at the Smart Cities Council. The first one is data exchanges. The second one is civic data trusts. And the third one is digital twin. We believe that these 3 approaches and platforms are very powerful in helping activate data so that we can make better decisions. There's a lot of words on this slide, but really what it's highlighting is this has been a journey. You don't just sort of do digital twin overnight. It's been a journey for a number of years, and even before the Smart Cities Council was involved. And of course, it'll continue to go. We've only just started. But at the Smart Cities Council, we've been advocating to the national government here in Australia since around about 2017, 2018, the idea of establishing a centre for Digital Built Australia, very much modelled on the UK. And really, since then, we've been shaping a lot of our events, engagements, and advocacy around digital twin, and working with other organisations to build momentum, build a community. We've developed a digital twin guidance note and a whole range of other sort of knowledge resources that I'll touch on. We've run a number of events. Our first National Digital Twin Symposium in Sydney in 2019, when we really brought the digital twin community together, one of the first sort of real big gatherings in person. And then that's continued to grow. So it's very much a journey, and I'm only going to be able to touch on a few things in this session, but very much willing to share with others who are interested in the journey that we've undergone. Similar to, of course, the CDBB, we've developed a digital twin hub for the region. We launched that last year. That's kind of where things happen in Australia and New Zealand. That's where our community comes. That's where we share resources, we exchange ideas, and we primarily communicate through that hub with the community. So that's been a really invaluable action and investment that we've made. And we have monthly catch-ups with the CDBB Digital Twin Hub team as well, so we can learn and share and improve on our ways to engage. As part of that, we've just started just this week actually our monthly Digital Twin Hub meets. These are every second Tuesday of the month, 3 topics, 30 minutes, very short, very sharp, bringing our community together. We've got a standing agenda of 3 items, and we share, we ask questions, and it gives us a regular check-in point, gives us a regular sort of reason to jump online and to meet and share. I mentioned the Digital Twin Guidance Note. This is an interesting one. We started drafting this in early 2019. We released it last year. It was in some way a little bit in response to the fact that we are still lacking digital twin standards globally, particularly from a strategic perspective. Of course, the work that BSI are doing and CDBB, they're certainly starting to fill that gap. But in Australia, we still don't have any strategic digital twin standards that are available to us. And when I say strategic, of course, I don't mean technical or process, but those really important standards that are early fundamental resources in building a marketplace around definitions, benefits, business case, and potential use cases. ISO is of course undertaking a lot of work at the moment, but there's still time to go until we have those standards available. So we had to fill a little bit of a gap, and we published a guidance note that we worked on, and that sort of has given us a little bit of a foundational platform to work from. Last year, for the first time, we hosted Digital Twin Week. It was a week-long event, 12 sessions, over 1,200 attendees. We had case studies, we had workshops, we had open plenaries, we had panels, water, infrastructure, both horizontal and vertical infrastructure, and a whole range of different cultural management sort of discussions around digital twin. It was very, very dynamic. And what you see on the slide here is just a screenshot. Our YouTube channel, Smart Cities Council Australia, New Zealand, has each and every one of those sessions posted online, and you can certainly go in and have a look at the conversation that Australia and New Zealand had last year around digital twin. And we'll be backing that up again this year with Digital Twin Week 2021 running again week long in October. So that provides a really fantastic platform for us in the region here to engage, to advance our thinking, and of course share our best practice. Our exciting project for 2021 is going to be the Digital Twin Challenge. We'll be selecting 10 organisations and projects, 5 cities and municipalities, 5 state agencies to go on an 18-month journey with us to look at some potential key topic areas. You can't probably read that, but we've identified a whole range of themes and topics and potential templates and resources that I think we need to create as part of building a marketplace. And those 10 projects and organisations will form a cohort. They'll learn from each other, and we're going through a process at the moment of getting expressions of interest. So watch that one. We'll certainly be willing to share the success and the outcomes that come from that, but we feel that we need to have an ongoing pipeline of projects, of research, and knowledge sharing so that we can build up our marketplace. Probably the biggest project that we've been working on for the last 12 months has been the Digital Twin Strategy. What's different in Australia and New Zealand compared to the UK, for example, is that we don't have the government leading the digital twin journey. We don't have a government-funded, Digital Built Australia, for example. So it's been up to the private sector, academia, other stakeholders to really take charge. So the Smart Cities Council is currently the steward of an open source digital twin strategy. This has been a Google Doc that's been available globally for at least the last 8 to 10 months. We're just about to enter a design phase of a draft, which will come out within the next 4 weeks for public comment and for sharing. And of course, we'll then see what feedback comes from that. The table of contents is quite diverse. I'd be certainly more than happy to circulate this to the audience, but we're looking at the fundamentals of why, what, and how, the business case, leadership, governance, different use cases, standardization, what standards do we think we need, capability development, research and development, catalyzing action and building a pipeline of digital twin projects, and also an action plan based on a stakeholder ecosystem and what we believe needs to be done next. So that's an exciting project that continues to roll out. And our task force at the Smart Cities Council, Digital Twin Task Force, has really been an engine room, a diverse group of stakeholders, but we've also had a range of collaborators and actually a large stakeholder community that's been part of this sort of open source process of taking a Google Doc and working on it week by week. We've had weekly stand-up meetings, and it's been quite an iterative, extensive process. So stay tuned for that. Bernd, that's all that I've got. So certainly looking forward to the panel session a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Very great presentation. We're going to get back to you in the discussion, absolutely. Just want to say, if you haven't checked out the resources that the Hub provides, it's really great. I enjoyed the podcast, Smart Cities Chronicles, that you are leading, Adam, but also the Digital Twin Week last year was a great inspiration for us who work with digital twins. We'll get back to you later. Thanks so far, Adam.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to invite Dan Isaacs to come onto the stage. He is the Vice President and CTO of the Digital Twin Consortium in the United States. I still see Adam on my screen here. Is Dan ready to join? I'm just going to wait for his sign. No. Guess Andreas, maybe you can help me out here with whether we have some technical problems or.
Yes, hello Bernd. Dan was with us just a second ago, but just disappeared from the backstage here. So I'm guessing he will show up in a minute or two. But I'll add him when he comes back.
Let's move on with some questions, maybe. I saw there was one question in the chat, actually, for Alexandra. Let's have Alexandra join our little group here. Alexandra, there was a question here by CJ. What aspects of public good, other than increased productivity and efficiency, do you think your center will be delivering by when?
That's a really great question. And the first thing I'd have to say is that my centre won't be delivering it. The National Digital Twin will be delivering, which we won't own. And it's broader than that. As I've said, and as Adam's also said, it's about working collaboratively globally. But to answer the aspects of public good, customer satisfaction, better health, better well-being, better education, because we will have the data to make those informed decisions, to make those interventions into how we run our cities, how we run our regions, how we run our hospitals. Ensuring that infrastructure is fit for purpose and that we get better outcomes per whole life pound, which will allow us to do other things with the money that we've saved, hopefully. And for the environment, that whole big picture, less waste, less disruption. We see digital twins and connected digital twins as the key enabler of net zero and of the circular economy. So I think it's actually hard to overstate how wide, how broad the influence of this could be if it works really well.
Thank you for that answer. We actually do have a second question here by Nicholas. For you, I believe, Alexandra, was data in the right format. How does standardized data ingestion integration happen between the different systems that you mentioned?
That's a great question. So that's that piece around agreeing on the rules and competing on the game. So if you've got those rules set up, if you have the information management framework set up with the reference data library, the foundation data model, and the information architecture, that allows the sharing of data. It makes it, if you like, translatable between its various different formats. So if that's set up correctly, and if hopefully everybody agrees on those rules and we can work to those, then that's how that integration will happen between the different systems. But that's the fundamental issue at the bottom of making connected digital twins work.
Thank you. Sounds great. I would suggest, since Dan is probably not here yet, that we continue right with the discussion, and we'll pull Dan in here. If Anders is still around, we can maybe. Oh, we have Dan. We have Dan. Okay, never mind. Dan is here. Dan, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
And we can hear you. Great to have you with us.
Absolutely. Right as you were ready to start, storm is passing. So just talk about Murphy's Law. Perfect timing. Internet went out. Now it's just back on.
Great. But we have you now. If you're ready, then please, we're looking forward to your input.
Should be sharing my screen right now.
We see the screen perfect. Everything works.
Make sure I can advance. All right. Well, first off, thank you again for this opportunity to present and introduce the Digital Twin Consortium and share some of what our members are doing, actually. So before we start that, I wanted to give a little idea in terms of the structure of the consortium itself. Really, if you think about it, there's all sorts of numbers out there in terms of what the value is for digital twins. I've seen just incredible numbers. Here's an example of looking at it from the standpoint of being able to get things right and be able to actually combine the physical with the digital worlds to generate this significant amount of revenue and potential. But there are definitely challenges associated with that. And one of the key areas is in terms of the limited interoperability. There's a lot of confusion out in the market space also about what a digital twin is, what is it really going to enable, how do you get started with a digital twin, what does that journey look like, how long will it take, And then what is the return on the investment for that? We've had several members, potential members, asking these types of questions. So really what the consortium is all about is really to drive the adoption, the awareness, bring in interoperability, and really develop digital twin enabling technologies, and to propel that innovation forward in terms of the technology. But again, look at it from these consistent approaches. You heard Adam talking about some of the challenges in terms of no standards out there, and also interoperabilities issues with that. So we're looking at that from consistent approaches, both from open standards requirements as well as open source development implementations, and really looking at how we can help to accelerate that market adoption and guide those outcomes. Just a quick overview of the consortium. The umbrella organization is Object Management Group, and they've been around 30 years. They are an SDO, so they do define standards. They have within their umbrella, they have both the Industrial Internet Consortium, which is focused on the technologies around digital transformation, as well as software quality with CISQ. And then the fastest growing consortium that they've had is the Digital Twin Consortium. And here you can see some of the founders. So we have both Dell, we have GE Digital, we have Microsoft, Northrop Grumman, and then on the simulation and visualization side and going forward implementations, we have Ansys, Autodesk, and Bentley. So quite a very wide variety and very strong background in terms of experience from our founders. But then you can also see in terms of the groundbreakers, this was from day one, the members that we've had. We're now approaching well over 250 members. And this is even before the year is out. We started back in the middle of May, and we continue to see members, if not on a daily basis, certainly joining in on a weekly basis. And I think that's a testament to the fact of the, what the digital twin is truly enabling in terms of transform and serious business outcomes. We are a member-driven organization from a global perspective. Here you can see I know this is actually needs to be updated. It's over 26 countries are represented here, and you can see that the division and how that's set up. We have many liaisons also that also tie into the consortium that we continue to grow and develop from that standpoint, and working very closely with other organizations around the world. So the structure of the consortium is really around vertical focused or domain focused, where we have both aerospace, health science, healthcare, and life science, infrastructure, manufacturing, and natural resources. And then within these organizations, we also have subgroups in terms of some of those areas. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the roles and the activities of just a few of our members in terms of their activities relative to smart city initiatives. Overlying the domain-specific areas, we have our technology, terminology, and taxonomy working group, where we look at the horizontal aspects, such as security and trustworthiness, which includes reliability. It includes resiliency. It includes privacy when you're thinking about healthcare, life science, and the data that we're collecting through as a result of these, everybody being connected in this smart city concept. Now you get areas in terms of the governance of that data and the privacy concerns there. So we have the security and trustworthiness subgroup within that. Then we also have the area that's focused on the terminology, the taxonomy. We want to have a common vernacular, so we're all speaking the same language here within the consortium, and then moving that forward out to help to drive, help to eliminate some of the confusion that's out in the market space. Then we also have our open source area, which is focused on open source, open standards requirements, as well as the full platform stack. And so we look at that across, so we have a complete lens, sort of a blueprint in terms of a framework that we can look at the commonalities and the differences between these areas from a life cycle perspective and the enabling technologies relative to each of the different domains, and understand where those differences are, where those commonalities are, and how we can bring those to play and across the different life cycles. Okay, and then of course at the bottom we have our focused area in terms of thought leadership and being able to bring forward the innovation thought leadership, the value, the demonstration of that from customer awareness, from a capability awareness, and overall drive that adoption. So that's at a high level, sort of the structure of the working group, the structure of the consortium. Here we're looking at it from the standpoint of the infrastructure working group. And you can see this is not just about the smart buildings, but scaling up all the way to smart cities and infrastructure elements, such as rail, such as bridges, such as traffic management, all of these different aspects. And so just to give you an idea here, this is updated very recently from an article I found from Deloitte. They're talking about being able to really drive these smart, renewable cities around the world. And just to give you a perspective, this is just a sampling of what these areas are, but you can see some of these looking at it from the overall level of renewability and how they're using the alternative resources to create basically renewable energy sources. So you can see this is scaled all the way from higher levels all the way down to what they consider the purest and then the newest. And here you can see some of these different cities represented. You can see the NEOM there. You can see the different areas. And several of our members are involved actively in supporting and working in digital twin areas for these different cities. So I just thought that would be a good way to showcase this. One of our more recent members, the Autonomy Institute, is looking at it across the board in terms of the mobility and how do we bring out that from both communications and transportation, and look at that in terms of really being able to understand that from overall autonomy for these smart cities. Here you can see a collection of the different organizations that are part of that. I really felt that quote is really spot on here. Only with the digital twin in place can the government agencies effectively analyze what can be done with the data and improve living, economic opportunity, and revitalize the community. And you heard that saw an example of that relative to what Andrea was talking about from CDBB perspective. And we see this across the board. You can see the different areas bringing into play. So let's focus one specific area. So this is one of our members that's looking at it from being able to instantly render models of the buildings, the terrain, and the different areas. And this is one of the examples that they're showing here. They're involved with several different programs. They're also actively involved in the CDBB. They have recently been awarded a contract, which is really the largest digital twin in the UK. And this is what they're calling that the Yorkshire Geospatial twin, here representing, again, doing the modeling of the cities, understanding the traffic management, analyzing that, and working and taking some data from the British Telecom and being able to drive that forward. So here you can see one example of being able to showcase how the digital twin has that potential across the board. Going back in terms of the Autonomy Institute, they're looking at it from a specific area of Austin and looking at how can they bring these mobile corridors together and cover both land, air, and even sea, and be able to bring these together in a united way. We have another one of our members through one of our branches where they're looking at it across the board from understanding the flow of crowds, the occupancy, and even if there's some type of a crisis situation, what's the most effective way to be able to evacuate people in that area. So they use what they call their artificial IoT, artificial intelligence, and then with a digital twin platform for what they say this referred to as space intelligence. So this is really people flow management. You can imagine in the COVID crisis, being able to know what is the situation in the building that I'm about to enter, what level of health assurance do I have or guarantee when I enter that building that I'm safe, and we have other members that are actively involved in those spaces. Here gives you an example of a smart city relative to the communication links. And you can see here the different aspects of that, what they're calling the portable network node, and being able to actually look at this across the board from all different aspects. And you can see in the corner here with the micro data center, and then tying in all those different areas of mobility and looking at it across, as I said, across the board from the 5G from satellite communication, logistics, telemedicine, edge compute, all these different aspects associated with a smart city. So let's go into one of the other areas where our natural resources working group is focused. And you can see the different areas, not just on mining and metals, oil and gas, but also on energy and renewables and utilities. And this is one of our members who's a co-chair of this organization. They're looking at it being able to use a digital twin for a overall infrastructure. Overall infrastructure from the utilities. So this is a company called the Agile Fractal Grid. And what they're looking at is being able to create these nanogrids and microgrids and be able to link these together from a township or a citywide, bring those together at a region. So you have multiple tiers of these digital twins and digital twin management with levels of complexity increasing at each stage. You can see at the smallest scale where it combines both high performance compute, communications, and this is both wired and wireless, as well as a security enclave aligned with this electric power generation, which is based on renewable resources. So this is either solar or wind or geothermal or different aspects relative to that. Then each level of the microgrid or the nanogrid then becomes joined together, and you have this concept of the regional. Then you can combine the statewide and create actual overall from a country level. So you have different levels of complexity, different levels of capabilities going on, where the digital twin is actively managing the entire area from this standpoint. And this approach gives you better resiliency, because if there's an area or a node or one of the microgrids goes out, because it is decentralized, you can immediately isolate that and reduce any kind of impact and start doing remediation on that from the rest while you keep the rest of the grid active. And you can see here a representation with the active management, event intelligence, situational awareness, combining both artificial intelligence, machine learning, high performance compute for real-time response and reaction. And you can see an example there in this case, but it's much more than just this aspect. It actually brings in the ability to take that electric power generation from these alternative resources and create green hydrogen from that. So there's a whole nother perspective and element that comes into play with this that is actually being prototyped right now in some of the areas within in New Mexico, and also looking at it a new pilot program that's coming into play up in the northeastern portion of the U.S. So another member is involved directly in terms of being able to provide that situational intelligence, the event intelligence, and the situational awareness by being able to actually bring essentially all the assets, all those aspects from a visualization perspective, from an understanding into effectively your bedroom. And so that's really a real-time control operating room. They're being able to leverage that, and we'll be bringing out more and more of this from the overall perspective of the pilot program and the use case. So I'm going to jump here from this perspective and look at from the overall areas, and we'll look at these different domains. We've covered some of the mobility already. We've covered some of the energy aspects, but I wanted to focus in on both the health aspect as well as obviously the safety security, as I talked about, looking at it from the privacy of the data. So this is another working group that we have, our healthcare and life science working group, and where they're focused in the different areas relative to the digital twin of the self, or understanding the overall perspective and being able to do the health forecasting with the real-time updates. Again, in pandemic situation, you can imagine how critical this is, key information this is relative to that. We have several members working in these spaces in these areas. So this is just to sort of give you a snapshot in terms of just a few of our members and what their activities are relative to smart cities and the initiatives going on. So we do have a Bright Talk channel. There's quite a few webinars, blogs, information that we have posted. So if you're interested in learning more, encourage you to take a look at that. And then also really to get involved. You know, we are member driven, and there's a lot of opportunities within the consortium to help to influence and collaboration, both within the organization as well as outside through different liaisons and regional branches. And so that really is the way we're being able to showcase and drive the adoption of digital twin technology, the awareness, and the thought leadership.
Thank you, Dan.
I want to say thank you.
Thank you for a great presentation. I suggest we jump right into the discussion. So let's have Adam and Alexandra join as well. Great to have you back, Alexandra. Waiting for, here's Adam. Great. So first question. I was wondering about the readiness and the maturity of digital twins. So when we look at the supply side and some of the marketing material, it sometimes feels that the one-stop shop city twin is already there to purchase. We just need to just go out and purchase it. The question is that really so? Where are we in terms of the readiness? Maybe it's hard to like put a TRL behind it, but sort of are we more in the sort of research and set basic principles phase of development demonstration, or are we actually already in operations? So where are we? What's the current status? Maybe Dan, you want to give it a go?
I had a feeling you were going to pick me. It's a, I would say it's a multifaceted question. There are companies out there that say we have a digital twin kit. We have a digital twin kit builder. But when you look at what the composition, especially when you look at it in terms of a smart city, you're really looking at a system of systems. You're looking at a level of, I would say, complexity where you need to involve many different aspects associated with that. Some of the examples, I think you could see they have many different dimensions to that. So I would say that if you think about it, you can classify digital twins in terms of a discrete level. So you think about it from a traditional predictive maintenance condition monitoring on a single asset. And then you look up from that standpoint, and now you bring it more towards a composite. Now you're bringing in your system of systems, which brings in more levels of complexity. So I would say at the discrete level, there are offerings out there. It goes back to one of our members says, you know, what you need to do is you need to understand what job are you hiring the digital twin for? What is the specific focus? What is the expected outcome? And then work backwards. One of the things that one of our members has found is looking at it from the low-hanging fruit. They got brought in to address an issue to give them just continuous monitoring. I want to understand what is the condition, what's happening right now? Why am I seeing these failures in my system? And what evolved was they said, sure, we can tell you exactly what's happening. But on top of that, we can now start to look ahead, and we can use the digital twin to take that continuous update and understand why this is happening and how you can prevent it. So we can look forward to the future. We can combine that. So it's effectively, we're giving you a crystal ball with this approach. We're addressing your immediate concern, but look at what we can solve here. And in this case, they were able to solve, I think it was about 120 hours of unplanned downtime. And that resulted in really a loss of over $4 million of goods that they were able to produce. And they said, okay, let's go through this. They then, after 6 months, they went through the analysis. After 6 months, they were able to eliminate all these situations where they were having the unplanned downtime because the digital twin was able to identify that. And on top of that, they said, well, this is great. This is one situation. Now let's go and across that, all of our equipment and all of our different areas. This was in a mining operation. So now they're talking about tens to hundreds of millions of dollars that they're saving. And it doesn't stop there. They're now taking that digital twin. They're looking at that from how are we effectively using the information? Are we being most efficient in doing that? So now you get this concept of a digital twin of organization. And so they're applying that across the board. So I really think it comes down to what job are you hiring the digital twin for? Let's understand that and then slowly build on that from that perspective. And when you get into these more complex, these system of systems, absolutely, there's much more at stake here that you need to do. And I think Adam talked about it in terms of it is a journey to start with. But if you have that understanding of what those expected outcomes are up front, you can certainly be much more successful towards that.
Great. Thanks a lot for that input. Short comment to add, Adam or Alexandra, to that question. Where are we? If not, we're moving on to the next question. Okay, so I was wondering about sort of the challenges that we face. I think we can all agree that it's probably not so much about the technology. It's more about other things. But what are those other things? What are the biggest challenges that you see? Is it the human? Is it the data? Is it the standard? What is it from your perspective, Adam?
Bernd, I might draw a very brief parallel to building information modelling, BIM, and in Australia, and I don't see too much of a difference with digital twin. Hopefully, we won't have the delay that we had with BIM, but in Australia, I remember 14 years ago when I was in the private sector, we were ready to deliver BIM projects or document and deliver in BIM, but the demand wasn't there. The demand wasn't there, and this is our fear with digital twin. We can be ready to go technically. We know how to do it. We can do it tomorrow. We've got all the capability, but if the demand isn't there, it's kind of, you know, not really having any impact at all. So in terms of barriers, it's not technology at all. Technology has never been, data has never been a barrier. It's going to come down to the people issues: leadership, governance, funding, financing, business models, good policy, a supply side that is well trained, ready to go. I'll be brutally honest, digital twin and this agenda and marketplace is no different to any other agenda, where we need good demand, good supply, and we need to execute. We've got good supply, we need good demand. And on the demand side with government, there's just a lot of those really challenging issues that need to fall into place: leadership, governance, good policy, business models, and every part of the system playing its role. So it's early days. Technically, we can do it tomorrow, and we are doing it in some instances. In Australia, the mining sector has been doing digital twin for a long time, but that's private sector driven, a very clear return on investment and business model, hyper efficiency. In terms of broader government funded, publicly funded infrastructure and services, we've got a ways to go.
Thanks a lot, Adam. There was actually a question here in our chat by Daniela. Maybe we can put that in here. Why is the demand not there? What are your thoughts? Maybe Alexandra, you want to either agree or disagree with that?
I agree with everything that Adam said, and I would add into that. There's also the citizen engagement piece around the people. People are the most difficult thing in this. Why is the demand not there? I think in some places it is, and Adam makes a really good point. Mining have been using it for years, but so have aerospace, so has auto, and I think we are getting there in infrastructure. People are realizing what this can do. It is about getting those people, that the changes that need to happen for people to be comfortable, for organizations to be comfortable, and then that demand will follow. So it's, you know, we would talk about it as a socio-technical change program, but, you know, the technology is still evolving, but there is a lot of it already there. We just need to get its education, its support, its understanding that we need to get in place.
Thanks a lot for that answer. We got actually one more question early in the chat. I'm trying to stitch something together here on standards, actually. You know, Adam, that's kind of your favorite topic to talk about. I mean, we have standards. We have actually a lot of standards. We have geospatial standards, BIM standards, open data standards. The question is, do we actually need a digital twin standard? Or is everything we need already there? Do we just need to start using it? And also earlier, a comment was about, isn't it dangerous to have also competing standards? So maybe Adam, you start, and then the other two, Dan and Alexandra, can join in.
Yeah, but we do have a lot of component part standards. You know, information management, data management. We've got interoperability standards. So we have many standards that relate to certain parts of the digital twin. One of the most common questions is, what is a digital twin? And like smart cities, like sustainability, like any of these agendas that are around transformation, we've wasted time up to 10, 20 years at times trying to define and redefine what these things are. I was very specific in saying strategic standards for digital twin don't exist from a standards body. They are being worked on. BSI through CDBB, it's like a month or two away. It's being worked on right now. Those early, those real early strategic standards that get everyone on the same level playing field, common mindset, not necessarily technical standards, but very clear on what it is, are fundamentally important. There are many stakeholders on the demand side that think that digital twin is the BIM crew just wanting to do more stuff. So therefore it's a buildings agenda. It's everyone's agenda. And so that's where some of those early strategic standards that are very clear, gets everyone on the same page, can be extremely powerful.
Thank you. Alexandra, do you want to comment on that?
I love coming after Adam because he says everything I want to say, but better. So thank you. But absolutely, we need to get those early strategic standards in place. We need to, we have the ISO 19650, which is around information management. We need to look at what we've got. We need to make sure that we have an international standard that everybody is happy to work with, because digital twins need to go beyond country boundaries. It's for me, it's self-evident, and we need to work towards that as we're progressing. But it is a look at what do we have, how do we make sure that it aligns and get those early strategic standards in place.
Thank you. Dan, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'd agree. That's, we're looking at that again with the Digital Twin Consortium not being an SDO. We certainly can look and understand what requirements are needed to do that and help to address that from the other areas that are SDOs, including our parent organization, OMG. But understand what they are and where are the issues lying in terms of interoperability, and are there opportunities to be able to have essentially ways that we can bridge those different standards, bring them together so we can have this shared capability.
Great. I want to focus a little bit on the public sector perspective or government perspective. I know we have a lot of people in the audience that represent the public sector, and they might want to start their own digital twin journey. My impression is that sometimes the actual purpose, the use cases are not crystal clear for many municipalities. Anybody care to comment on that? What do you have? Maybe some good use cases. What do you think is the main added value for the public sector for a municipality? Adam or Alexandra, maybe.
I'll make a quick comment. We recently held a roundtable with municipalities, and it was around the idea of digital twins for all. And what we were trying to do was ensure that within a municipality, which has multiple functions and departments and services, that the digital twin capability is not just of interest to either the infrastructure or asset and maintenance team. We want the health and community services team. We want them to love digital twin. The landscape and urban design team, the waste management. We really try to explore this idea that digital twin is for everyone, because the common denominator is data, and every department, every individual, every agency within a public sector organization works with data. So digital twin is for everyone. So we're very much, and this is going to have to be a very deliberate campaign almost, that this is not just for the people like me who love infrastructure and buildings and 3D models. This is for people that are trying to, solve homelessness issues in their city. It's a data play. It's the most powerful data platform and capability of all time. That's why we love it. And we think that we've just got a lot of work to do to have really good, clear communication program, that it's very inclusive, it's awesome, and it is a journey, and starting tomorrow is the best way to start.
Great. Dan, did you come across some great use cases from the public sector side? Anything you want to share?
I think that one of the things that was interesting when we started up our healthcare and life science working group, one of the things that was loud and clear from the members was we want to break down the silos. We want to break down the silos that exist between the pharmacy and between the healthcare, and we want to have that information. We want to create this conduit so we can have the free flowing of information that we need to be able to really understand what's going on with, in this case, with ourselves, right? And the pandemic has shown that in spades, right? You have all this information going on about these vaccines, but well, what happens to children under 16? Where's that information? Okay, so understanding, and that was just one example, understanding what that is and how we can break those silos down and make that data more accessible is very critical. That's one of the, I would say, one use case that stands out very clearly.
Right. We actually have a question here from Daniela. Maybe we can put that on a screen. When starting your digital twin journey, I represent a municipality. Should we aim for a broad approach or a small pilot as a start, because needs are huge and ideas are not lacking, but cost is an issue always. So maybe Alexandra, you want to comment on that?
That's a huge question. One of the issues, and I know with public sector funding, particularly now, everybody's having to look after every dollar. But it's really important that we don't just look at the cost, the price for buying it now, that we look at the whole life value and think about the benefits, the financial benefits, also the other benefits, but the financial benefits, that's the sum we need to do. And that's the case that we need to put to people who are thinking about having a digital twin. Whether to start on a small or a broad scale, it's a really tricky one. It's very difficult to persuade people to buy in if you can't show them something that is working. So my personal opinion is that starting on a thin slice, if you like, a very small part of the wider picture, and showing that it works, showing how it works, and making the case for how, if you didn't have it as a thin slice, you had it as an entire picture, you break down all those silos, how much more effective and valuable and how much more good could be done with doing that.
Great, thank you. I have a question about regional differences, actually, since we have 3 continents represented here. My observation is that when it comes to North America and Asia, we're always talking a bit more about large investments, agendas driven a little bit more by the private sectors, large software vendors, often really active and engaged. When it comes to Europe, a bit more this triple helix of academia, government, and the private sector doing initiatives together. Do you share that view, and do you see other regional differences? Who wants to start?
I'll have a go. So I completely agree with the European sort of industry academia policy, triple helix. That's the way we work. I think we have much more in common than we do different. And actually, it's really interesting looking at how those different emphasis enable different things, and how we on the different continents can learn from each other. I think that's vital. So we watch what both Dan and Adam are doing and learn, and as they both said, we talk, we link up, and so that we get the benefit of all those different pieces and different ways of looking at it.
Bern, if I can make a comment there as well. I don't know if I can share my screen, but the strategy we've been developing, we've gone on a very interesting process of defining the twin through capability. And what you see on the screen here are 6 capabilities of a twin. And when you use terminology and you approach digital twins through this kind of a lens, it being a set of capabilities, it's vanilla flavored. There are no regional differences. Municipalities all around the world use GIS, for example. That's a capability. Visualization is a capability, regardless of sector, region, scale. So it will be interesting as we evolve, as we develop some standards. Like, this is why strategic standards are important, because if we can keep it as I don't want to use the word generic, but if we can keep it as usable as possible to more people, I think we're going to have a greater impact. So I don't see regional sort of variations in terms of twins capabilities, for example. We all do this all around the world. If you view it through that lens, there'll certainly be sectors that may go first, that want to take bigger risks and invest and see value, and the business case will be different, like mining versus public sector. But, you know, one of our goals is to make sure that there's, you know, digital twin is for all, and we want to make sure that we pick terminology and talk about it as a set of capabilities that anyone can engage with at any time. And that last question by your guest around where does a city start, our view would be you start with capability, because I would imagine that you're already doing and developing and have good digital twin capability already. Maybe not across all of those 6, but in some instances, yes. So I like the idea of viewing the twin and through a set of capabilities.
Mm-hmm. Great. Dan, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it gets down to fundamentally, and this was another input just recently from a member, is look, it's about understanding what is the data telling us. It's the capability. How do I visualize this? How do I represent this? How do I get to the actionable insight? How do I understand what that data is telling me? Again, another member just was telling me that, look, this company has been gathering this data all times. It took me to take a look at it and understand, and we're just talking about the pumps and motors involved in this. And it said, which obviously very, very key elements, right, of a smart city. When you get down to the specific assets, just the pumps and motors, looking at the data, they said, you know, we have an opportunity to save you hundreds of millions of dollars. This is over a 2-year span. They were able to identify where they had failures of either the pump or the motor. The reasons weren't very clear, so the failure modes needed to be better defined and better understood. That's where this member can come in and help significantly. But recognizing that, look at all this data that you've been gathering, and look at what the downtime has been costing you. And when you walk into you know, the CFO or whatever these companies, and you say, look, here's what's happening. You know, I can save you this much money. What do you think? Is a 30-to-1 return? Does that sound good to you? So it really is understanding what is the data saying, and however you use this capability to get that actionable insight, I think that's universal. I mean, all the different areas, regions, that's really what they're trying to understand.
Thank you. Great. We need to soon come to an end, but I was wondering about one thing actually now that we talked about a little bit. How do we get the people on board? And that's regarding the societal challenges. I know that many of us are engineers, and that we often sort of look at things with a very technology-driven focus. I myself, I'm a social scientist by training, so I was a bit more interested in the societal questions and challenges represented, for example, in the SDGs. What is the role of a digital twin in this context? How can we really ensure that we also involve other disciplines and non-technical professions, invite them to this journey? Are there any thoughts on that, Alexandra?
Yeah, we have to do it. It's vital, and I'm really glad that you're representing social science here, because it's without the people bit, this doesn't work. That involvement has to be deliberate, and it has to be thought at right at the beginning. It's not something we stick on later. It's not something that happens when we've created a digital twin or halfway through, and then we, you know, have some focus groups. It has to be planned. It has to be right at the beginning, and it has to be people driven. You know, as engineers, we can get very excited and get carried away with pushing the tech forward. but we need to bring the people with us as we do it. So, my point is, right at the start, right at the beginning, throughout the whole program, we have to plan, and we have to have that constant two-way engagement with businesses, with society, with people in all their wider senses, so that this will work.
Right. Adam, you any last comments on that one?
No, my turn to say I agree with everything that Alexandra just said, and twice.
Alexandra makes it easy for us today. Good. Yeah, unfortunately, the time is already over. We ran out of time very quickly now. Time flies. I want to say thank you. Thank you to Alexandra. Join us, talk about the Digital Twin National Program at CDBB. Special thanks to Adam and Dan, who joined here very early in the morning or very late at night. So have a good night, Adam, and have a good day, Dan. Thanks for making it. Thanks for being part of this. And lastly, I want to just say that we have the next session coming up next week on Wednesday. We'll talk about business and revenue models. Ken Dooley, Raphael Sachs, and Nicholas Van will join us there. So that's going to be a really interesting session as well. I hope you all come back for that one. And other than that, I'm just going to wish you a pleasant day. Thanks for joining, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.